Hey scholars, it's Miss Marnon. I hope you guys had a really great and relaxing break. We're going to kick things off in math class by doing more with equivalent expressions. So this is actually going to kind of be very similar to the lesson we did the Friday before break. So our objective is I can write equivalent expressions using the associative and commutative properties. So for our review question on our DIN, label the vocabulary terms on the equation below. So you have a word bank, so you need to use the word variable, coefficient, expression, term, and operator. So why don't you pause the video and see if you can label one of each of these words. Okay, so hopefully you were able to label them. There are a couple correct answers. So for example, for variable, you could have labeled the X, the Y, or this X, or all of them. I'm just going to label one of them. I'm going to label this X as variable. Next, let's do coefficient. So you could have labeled this 5, this 2, this 3. I'm going to just label this 5 as coefficient. It's the number that is multiplied by a variable. Sorry for my awful handwriting. Expression, there's a couple different expressions you could have written here. I'm going to do this 3x plus 2 is an expression. You could have also done the 5x plus the 2y. That's also an expression, as long as it does not have an equal sign. For term, it could be any of these 5x, 2y, 3x, or even just the 2. I'm going to label a 3x as my term. Oh, my pen's being a little weird. And then operator, it could be either of these plus signs. An operator is just plus, minus, multiply, divide. And because we can't see the multiplication ones, I'm going to just label this plus sign as our operator. So there we go. We labeled all of those vocabulary words. We've already learned a lot of new vocabulary. So for our preview question, it wants you to rewrite each expression using the associative and commutative properties. If you need help remembering, associative is when we group them together, like think about who you associate with, and commutative property is the switching around. So pause the video to see what you can do with these. Okay, so if you were using the associative property for 3 plus 5 plus 7, maybe instead of working your way left to right, you would have done 3 plus parentheses 5 plus 7. So putting that 5 plus 7 together first. For commutative, that's just switching, and you could have switched it any way you wanted to. I'm just going to switch the first two numbers to make it easy on myself. And you can put spaces between them if you want. When we type on our Canvas page for answers, though, we don't normally do spaces to make sure that we're all consistent, although I do kind of like seeing it spread out there. Here we have 5 times 4 times 2. So if we want to use the associative, we can group it together. So we can group that 5 and that 4 together, or that 4 and that 2 together. So and if you want to see where I got this symbol, it's under insert, symbol, and they have like just the dot for multiplying. If you ever want to use the multiplication sign, that's there. There's also smiley faces and stuff. If I want 5 times, let's do 4 times 2. For commutative, again, we're just going to switch some things around. So let's actually switch it. We'll switch the 4 and the 2 this time. So we'll do 5 times 2 times 4. Last one, so we're going to do our associative. Let's group something together. Let's just group that 6 plus 7 together and then add the 8. In commutative, we're just going to switch it. I'm just going to switch the 6 and the 7. So there we go. There are our associative and commutative properties. Associative is just regrouping things, commutative switching around. So let's get into some notes. So here we have exercise 1. State the property or operation that explained each step in simplifying the expression 11 plus x plus 3. So here's all of the work, and then here's the explanation. So here 11 plus x plus 3, that's our original expression. Look at the next step. They changed it to x plus 11 plus 3. What property or operation did they just use? Pause the video, see if you can fill this blank in. Okay, so hopefully you notice that it switched the order of that 11 and that x, and that is our commutative property. commutative property. Now look at the next line. They grouped. They said, I want to add this 11 and this 3 together. What property is that one? Hopefully you're realizing that when we associate things together with parentheses, that's our associative property. And lastly, they just added this 11 and 3 together. So this x plus 14, all they did was they added 11 plus 3. So we're just going to put addition. Right? That's not a property. They just added it together. So exercise 2, for each of the following expressions, write an equivalent expression in simplest form. Use commutative and associative properties as needed. So this is what we did the other day in class. So what can we do for this part A? So why don't you pause the video, see what you can work out using those 2 properties and kind of rearranging this to put it in simplest form. Okay, I know the first thing I noticed was this 2 times 3 times x in the beginning here. So maybe instead of doing the 3 times the x first, I want to use my associative property and regroup it. So I do my 2 times 3 first, like that, plus 7 plus 8. Now I know 2 times 3 is just 6, so now this is 6x. And I'm just going to bring down the plus 7 plus 8. Now I can actually also, I did associative here, I can do it again and put that 7 plus 8 together to be 15. So we're left with 6x plus 15. I have an x and I have a regular number. I can't put those together, so we are done. We are in simplest form for part A. Part B, we have 1/2 times negative 8d plus 11 minus 2. So why don't you pause the video and see if you can simplify this one on your own. Okay, so hopefully you saw that's pretty similar to what we just did. So if I want to reassociate this, I can do 1/2 times negative 8 first. So use parentheses 1/2 times negative 8 multiplied by d plus 11 minus 2. Something you might want to get in the habit of doing is anytime we have a minus, changing it to adding the negative. We like to change it to adding the negative because then we can use our properties like associative and commutative with it. So I'm actually going to do it. I'll do it in red so you can see it. Instead of subtracting the positive, I'm going to add the negative. And if you remember that little song we listened to, same thing. So now I have 1/2 times negative 8. That is negative 4d. And we still have plus 11 plus negative 2. Because we're adding now, I can use my commutative and associative properties on those because we know it didn't work when we had subtraction and division, but because it's all adding, I can use associative property and associate those 2 together. And 11 plus negative 2 is just 9. And there's nothing else I can simplify. There's no other numbers together. Later this week, we're going to learn about how to do more stuff when we have a bunch of different letters, but there's nothing else we can put together. This is the simplest form for part B. So now all you have left to do is a practice. So number 1 is just like this first problem up here where we had to label it with the properties. And then it's asking what property does it take you from y minus 6 to y plus negative 6. We talked about it quite a bit the other day in class. See if you can remember what property that is. That's your challenge for this. And then number 2, rewrite the expression below in simplest form. And is it equivalent to the first one? So is the one you wrote in simplest form, is it equivalent to this original one? For your exit ticket, it looks like it's not loading, but there is an expression here. Sometimes we just have to hit refresh and it will load. So let's see what happens when I hit refresh if it came back. Anytime it just says equation like that, try refresh. Sometimes you can just click it and it loads. But see, there we go. So your exit ticket, given this expression, write an equivalent expression in simplest form, and then state one property and how you used it in your simplification of this expression. When you're all done in Canvas, you have a choice board. You get to pick any activity from that choice board. You do not have to do all 3, just the one.